A few years ago, I was 17, just graduated from high school, and got my first job at a Christian camp near Yosemite in California over the summer. Mainly, the people I worked with were great, really sweet Christian college kids, the good kinds. There was one guy, though, I'll call him Carl, who I frankly did not like. Carl was tall, handsome, and charming. He had curly golden brown hair and a smile that could stop your heart. His eyes, though, were dead. He never got those little crinkles in the corners of his eyes when he smiled. It was like the top half of his face was just dead. There were things I didn't like about Carl right off the bat. His eyes, for one. That dead smile of his. He also never asked for anything. He tried to twist your arm. He'd just softly, very slowly, try to manipulate the situation until you almost felt like you owed him. Each time, I felt like a part of my brain shut down, like it slammed the door shut, and there was a very clear feeling of me telling myself, no, this is not right. Save him some food, but do not walk out into the woods to give it to him. Something is wrong. I got along with most of the little cliques at camp. No one really disliked each other as far as I knew. We just kind of broke off into groups based off what we liked to do in our free time, or who we worked with the most. Carl, though, seemed to make friends one-on-one within a clique. By the time he left the group, it was decimated. They were fighting, not speaking, and didn't trust each other. I know this isn't a lot of evidence, but I'm trying to paint a picture of a man who just seemed wrong. One day, everyone in camp decided to go to Fresno. We were tired of camp food and wanted real dinner. Maybe see a movie or go bowling. I was off work last. Now, at camp, we had a sign-out sheet. Being so close to Yosemite, we often went hiking. So if we left, we had to put our names down along with where we were going, when we left, and when we should be expected back. This way, if something happened, they would know when to start looking for us. So I put all my info on the sheet and headed down to the parking lot. My friends had all divided up into their cars. I didn't drive, and I jokingly asked if they forgot about me. They said Carl had said I could ride with him. I looked around but didn't see Carl, although I had seen his name on the sign-in sheet. All the hair on my back stood on end. I was terrified to get in the car with this guy alone. He felt so wrong, so off, just not right. I don't know how else to say it. My friends were telling me I had nothing to be worried about. It would be fine. I saw Carl walking toward the parking lot, that dead smile on his face, and everything in me was screaming not to get into the car. I said that I was tired and wanted to stay in tonight, and Carl laid the charm on thick, telling me what a good night it would be. I owed him because of God knows what, flashing that dead smirk. I refused. He got angry. Told me I didn't need to be such a bitch about it. I thought we were friends, the lot, etc. I refused. Finally, everyone figured out that I wouldn't be persuaded. I hugged one of my girlfriends goodbye, whispering in her ear not to ride back with Carl under any circumstances. When they all left, I walked back to the area with the sign-out sheet to cross my name off. Since obviously I wasn't going anymore, I saw the sheet, saw where my name was, and my heart dropped. My name had already been fucking erased. This happened to me about 1.5 years ago before I met my current girlfriend. You see, even as a 31-year-old male, you can still have creepy experiences. I met a girl on Match.com. We messaged for about 2 weeks, and things were going well. I told her about myself and my career, and she did the same, and we decided to meet up. As I wanted the girl to feel comfortable, I asked her where she would like to meet up. She said that there's a local bar that she goes to, that she would like to meet up because she knows people who go there. I said that would be fine, and we set a date and time. The day of our meetup, she messages me and says that I would have to pick her up because her car had to be taken to the shop. I thought about it for a second, and then brushed it off as, things happen, and I could get all old-fashioned for a date. I asked for her address, where she lived, and where we were going so I could map it out. She sent me her address and the name of the local bar. I looked up where she lived, and it's in a very bad part of town. I live in a big city in an affluent part of town. I'm not filthy rich, but I have a good career, and I guess with the way I dress, since I have to wear a tie and jacket to work every day and dressing nice when I'm out is a normal for me, you could say I come across as very wealthy. I have a luxury car as well, so I can see why people think that. I go to pick her up and I knock on the door. She answers and says, I will be 5 more minutes. I said that would be fine and I will be in my car. Not to sound snotty, but I felt uncomfortable being in that part of town. As I'm in my car, I see the curtains in her home slightly open, and I had that feeling like I was being sized up and watched. I could tell the curtains were moving because the lights were on in the house. So the girl comes out and gets into my car. We start driving and she makes comments about how nice my car is, and makes a lot of comments about money and asking me about the luxuries I must have, etc. That made me feel more uncomfortable. I just brushed off the comments without revealing anything. We get to the bar and we're having a drink, and she keeps trying to pry answers out of me about my wealth. At one point, I asked her why she was asking all of the questions about my personal wealth. She said that she didn't mean to come across as a gold digger or anything like that, but was curious. Now I'm suspicious. She kept texting someone when we were at the table. If you're on a date, that's a bad thing to do. She kept her phone in her lap at all times except once. She set the phone on the table to pick up her drink and look at something on the TV. I saw a text pop up when she wasn't looking at her phone, and I briefly had a chance to look. It said, "Get him back here and get him inside." I looked away, and she turned and snatched up her phone and put it into her lap and sent another text. At this point, I'm frightened and ready to get the hell out of there. I suggested we leave, and she promptly agreed. I don't know why I didn't ditch her, but I drove her home. On the way home, she said she had a good time and asked if I wanted to come inside and fool around. I declined and said I was tired and needed to get some sleep. She was persistent that I come inside, but I kept declining. When we got to her house, I stopped in the road with the car still running and said, "We're here, I need to get home. I will message you when I get home." She said, "You're not going to walk me to the door?" I told her no, and that it wasn't a good idea. The lights in the house were all off, and before they were all on. I knew that if I got out of the car, something would have happened. She reluctantly exited the car, and as soon as the door shut, I sped off. She didn't have my address or my personal number, and I blocked her on Match.com. Maybe I was overreacting, but I didn't feel safe. When you have that gut feeling, sometimes you have to trust it. My first job was at McDonald's. This building was attached to a gas station and located off a busy highway. I was 14 and started a 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. shift. The store was usually empty this early, so only 3 people, myself included, were in the restaurant. Manager, who was in the back, the cook, who was also in the back, and me, the cashier, who was up front. I was wiping down the counter when a man who looked to be in his mid-30s or early 40s came in. He didn't order anything, but went straight to the restrooms, which were in the restaurant area, just around the corner from my cashier. Many truckers and travelers would come in to simply use the washrooms and leave, so this was not an uncommon occurrence. I didn't think much of it. But after the man finished, he came up to the counter and said,
"Excuse me, I was just in the washroom and one of the toilets is overflowing."
I immediately came around the counter and let him lead me towards the restroom. Suddenly, I got a horrible feeling in the pit of my stomach and stopped dead in my tracks. I became very aware that no one was in the restaurant area, and the only other two people in the store were in the back and would not be able to hear me if I went into the restroom. The man had the restroom door open and realized I had paused. He nonchalantly said,
"Come on in, I'll show you."
which came off innocently enough, but it didn't sit well with me. I smiled and said, "One moment, I'll get my manager," and I started making my way back to the counter.
"It will only take a minute."
He called out. I met my manager in the back and explained to him that a man was complaining about an overflowing toilet. My manager went to check it out, and I followed closely behind him. When we turned the corner, the man was gone, and we entered the restroom. No toilet was overflowing. We exchanged a look and never brought it up again. To this day, I feel like some divine intervention gave me the wisdom to know not to follow the man into the restroom. The whole situation only lasted a few seconds, but it felt like forever. I was young and trusting, and this man could have done God knows what, and I wouldn't have been heard. He could have left, got away with whatever it was he had planned, and hit the highway. I never saw him again.